how do you go from the humble mangosteen fruit to this dip-dyed card with brush pen calligraphy? I'll be taking you through the whole process in today's video. And this is the mangosteen, which is a fruit from Southeast Asia. I love using the mangosteen as a natural dye because not only are natural dyes eco-friendly, but aesthetically, they contain different color particles within them. Now that shows up very clearly in this natural dye that we're making today, and we're pairing it with brush pen calligraphy. You can see that when this watercolor paper is dip dyed, the same mangosteen dye gives off shades of purple, blue, and brown. It's so gorgeous. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. So let me first show you the process of extracting color from mangosteen fruit. This is our coloring agent. This is what the fruit looks like inside, but for this project, we're just using the peel. And make sure to remove any flesh from the peel. Wash the peels under running water. We need to first dry the peels on a water-absorbent surface for quicker drying. I'm using an egg carton here. You can put the peels, the skin side up, so that as much water as possible can drain away. Leave the peels dry in the outdoors. Once they're dry, you can freeze them. For me, I'm skipping the drying step today because I'm using them straight away. And I'll be putting them in water anyway. So place the mangosteen peels into a pot. You can break them up into smaller pieces. Boil water. Put the pot with the peels under flame on the stove and pour boiling water in it. Stir the peels around so that as much surface area as possible comes into contact with the water. Now here's what the mangosteen dye solution looks like after about 10 minutes of simmering. Now try to make sure that the temperature stays around 80 degrees Celsius. And as the peel continues boiling away in the pot, you can see more of the purple color extracted out into the water. Now for this project, we're not making ink, we are making a dye solution, so it's okay to have it dilute. I'm adding more water and continuing to stir the peel. I'm cutting them into smaller pieces, but you can save yourself the trouble by cutting it in smaller pieces before you put them in boiling water, so don't be like me. After 1 hour, I turn off the stove when I think that the color is dark enough to use. Now, separate the peels from the dye solution, and this is what we get. A lovely purplish pink color. There are some pieces of the peel that we don't want in our dye. Now these will need to be filtered, so here's the setup. We have filter paper, filter funnel, and a glass container large enough to contain the filtered dye solution. You can choose to agitate the solution in the filter paper to ensure that the small pieces are not clogging up at the bottom. Here's what it looks like at the end of the filtering process. And now we get a clear, purplish red solution. I'm placing the mangosteen dye solution in this setup for dip dyeing. Then I place each of the ends of my watercolor paper into the dye solution. Don't immerse them in the dye solution for too long, only for a maximum of a minute, because otherwise the paper fibers will disintegrate. Here's my drying setup. What's important is that you protect your surface with plastic so that there is no staining on your table if drops of the mangosteen dye lands on it. You can already see the color variation of the mangosteen dye on the watercolor paper. I'm so excited to see what it looks like when it dries. It's dry now. When paired with the beautiful texture of watercolor paper, the mangosteen dye is such a standout, forming a mini rainbow with its color variation. It's gonna look so beautiful given away as a card. To make a card, fold the rectangular paper into two. And now comes the brush pen calligraphy part. I'm using the Pentel touch pen in black. I'm giving this card to someone who is not well, so I'm lettering the words "Get Well Soon." You can refer to the basics of brush pen calligraphy, playlist linked here, and I also have an accompanying playbook if you want to have an introduction to it first. I cover stroke-by-stroke instructions from learning foundation strokes to forming letters to forming words, like this one. I'm starting with the letter E first and leaving the G for later because I want to merge it with the letter S in the word soon on the second line. For the letter T, the stem is a downstroke, so we'll use heavier pressure. And as we move up the stroke into an exit stroke, we release the pressure to get a thinner line. Okay, for visual interest, I create the two L's in the word well differently. The first L I letter as an uppercase. But the second, I create the lowercase version. I start the entrance stroke of the letter L above the letter W because I'm going to do a matching swash for the bar of T in the word get. Have I told you? I love symmetry. I'm making the bar of T to the letter G. Which links to S. Then, for the N, I do a flourish to fill out the space between G and N at the base of the word soon. What I love about learning calligraphy is that not only is it a wonderfully mindful and meditative practice for me, but it can also be used to create gifts for others. I'm creating this card for someone who has an awful sore throat, so we made a lemongrass honey drink for her. The drinks are packed in bottles and I just need to write a note and off I go. In the spirit of Inktober, I'll be working with more natural inks this month. I'm really excited to share my love for creating natural inks with you. So if that's something you're interested in, I have a free playbook so you can get started with learning about natural inks too. What about you? What kind of gifts do you like to use calligraphy for? Let me know in the comments below. Stay well and healthy. Thanks for watching.